David here with Figboot on Pens. Today I have for you a pen from a brand that has developed a bit of a cult following over the last couple of years. The available quantity of their pens is very limited and the demand is growing. So even getting your hands on one is a bit of an accomplishment. The pen that I'm talking about is from the brand Kasama. And I actually have two of their pens to show you today, the Una and the Tala. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of these pens, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to the good folks at Kasama for providing these pens on loan for review. They have also provided a little something extra to give away to one of you. It's not one of the pens, but still something I think you will find interesting, so stay tuned for that. Kasama is based out of Manila, Philippines, and is run by a gentleman by the name of Mark Del Rosario. For his day job, Mark is a doctor. He is a radiation oncologist. Mark began making pens at around 2017 and really never intended for Kasama to be an actual pen brand. He considers it to be more of a passion project than a business. He was just creating pens that he would like to use and made a few extras for his local pen community. He started by turning pens on a lathe, but eventually moved over to producing them with a CNC machine. The pens that I'm going to show you today are the ones that he produces most often, but he really doesn't have a typical production lineup. He's always creating new and different things. Everything from acrylics to metals and other plastics. He has some amazing color treatments on some of his metal models. I really love the tops of the caps on these here. The patterning almost looked like lightning struck the pen. But you can see that there is a wide variety of offerings. I mentioned it up top, but it is a bit of a challenge to get your hands on one of these, but that makes the satisfaction of being able to do so all the greater. I'll discuss where you can find these for sale near the end of this review, but for now, let's actually look at a couple of pens. The pens arrive in this unique wicker case. Now, there's a couple of things about this case. First of all, the pens actually arrived in bubble wrap in here, and there is room inside for 4 pens, but there's no dividers or anything. So whatever you put in here will kind of bang around against one another. Here are the pens, and they are made from a material that is incredibly tough, as I will discuss and demonstrate here in a bit. So it's not an issue if these specific pens are banging around against each other, but you'd want to be careful as to what you put in here. I mentioned the giveaway. Kasama has provided me with an extra one of these cases to give away to one of you. I actually have 4 that the winner will be able to choose from. You have this pink, then there is a yellow in pink, then there is a blue, and then there is a more natural look. And at the end of the review, I'll let you know what you need to do in order to register for your chance to win one of these. And I'll give you your choice of which of these that you would like. Okay, here are the pens. I have 2 models. The larger one is called the Una, which in Tagalog means first, and this slightly smaller model is the Tala, which translates to star or to note. The name Kasama actually translates from Tagalog as companions. I'll give a closer look in the size comparisons to what these look like next to one another, but in the sake of this review, let's go ahead and focus on the Una. This pen is made from a material called Ultem, which is a brand name of high-strength translucent plastic material. Ultem kind of sounds science fiction-y, like vibranium or unobtainium. This is a popular material that NASA even uses in their space program. I was discussing this pen with Mark, and during our chat, he said, don't forget to do a drop test. And I was a bit confused. The last thing I wanted to do was drop a pen on purpose, especially one that was on loan. I did clarify. I said, you're talking about dropping it on a hard floor from a height of about 4 or 5 feet, correct? And he said, yep. And if you could do it on marble, it sounds cooler. Okay, so from a height of about 5 feet, here is a drop test on a marble floor. Mark was right to be confident about this material. There was no damage to the pen at all. The only thing was that after I dropped the entire pen, some ink splattered into the cap and I had to rinse that out. But there was no damage to the pen or cap at all. And it did sound kind of cool. On the end of the cap, laser engraved into the top is a palm tree. I think the use of negative space is nice in this engraving. It adds an element of shadowing to the logo that's nice. The cap is clipless. Near the top of the cap, there are 2 engraved rings. Then the remainder of the cap is straight until you reach the end of the cap. There is no traditional band or branding on the outside of the pen. And then there's a medium-sized angled step down to the barrel. The barrel is straight for about 1 inch, and then it tapers down to the end, which is flat. The cap twists off with a single rotation, and underneath we have a number 6 stainless steel JoWo nib, engraved with the palm tree logo again. This nib is available in a number of different size options, but some of that depends on your point of purchase. I'll discuss more about that in a bit. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section of the Una is very unique. First of all, the threads are at the very end, and then there is this very pronounced concave section. It does force your grip into a very specific position of the section, but I find the curvature to match the curvature of my fingers as well, and while it looks rather extreme, I do find it to be comfortable. The section then extends for a little over 1/2 inch where there is a large angled step up to the rest of the barrel. This pen is plenty long enough to use unposted, and I do like the feeling of this unique material against my hand. It is plastic, but I don't find it to feel overly plasticky, if you know what I mean. The pen does have kind of a matte finish to it. The cap does post, as long as you post it with some intention to get it on there. Now, while posted, if you apply a little pressure to the side of the cap, it will dislodge. While I haven't had any issues with this while writing, it's something to be aware of and keep in mind during use. The cap is really light, so I don't feel it backweights the pen or throws off the balance. And the edge of the cap is not sharp, so if it should rub against your hand, it's not uncomfortable at all. Now, this is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges and a converter is provided. The threads for this barrel are set further back than on most pens, so it was a bit surprising the first time I opened it. There are no metal parts on here, so you could eyedropper this pen if you choose. Since there is that odd division, the back portion of the barrel is small, and so the overall eyedropper ink capacity is a little smaller than you would find on other pens. You basically lose like that much of the barrel's capacity. It's not a huge deal though. With the threads at the end of the section, you can see here on the cap that the inner threads are located around the middle of the cap rather than the end. And so the cap is slightly longer than the barrel. So when capped, the transition from cap to barrel is almost at the midpoint of the pen. Now, I mentioned it was a bit of a challenge to purchase these pens. As of now, I am aware of 2 different sources. You could purchase them directly from Kasama in the Philippines. You can't place an order on a site or back order these pens. You need to follow them on Instagram or Facebook and pay attention to when they announce they have stock on hand. Then you need to act quickly through one of those channels because their stock does not last long. The alternative way is to purchase these through Mark Backus on his site, nibgrinder.com. Mark is a fantastic nibmeister. I've had him work on a number of my pens and he does great work. He has a shop on his site and there are times when he will have a limited inventory of Kasama pens. I do understand he might be receiving some within the next couple of weeks. Mark will typically announce he has stock via social media, and again, it typically won't last long. In regard to price, the Una starts at $300, and then the Tala, which is only slightly smaller, is only $5 less expensive at $295. The metal versions I showed you at the beginning of this video are considerably more expensive, and those go in like the $950 to $1,300 range. Now, if you order directly from Kasama in the Philippines, the shipping costs are rather high. I believe it's around $65 to the US. If you order through Mark Backus, he will then test and tune your nib to perfection, and his full lineup of custom nib grinds is available as well. His shipping costs are a lot less, but his sales price is slightly higher. He is performing a value-added service, so I don't see any issue with that. Overall, if you're in the US, you can have a pen which has been custom tuned by an expert nib meister for less than the cost of shipping one from the Philippines. Now, you'll see in the writing sample, but there is no issue with the nibs that come with these pens directly from Kasama. They also test and tune each nib. This Una has a broad nib that I care for a great deal. It is nice and juicy. Now, these pens are on loan, and I will be passing these on to other folks here in the US to take a look at and review. But after having the opportunity to use this pen for a while, I have grown fond of it. I like the design, and I like that it's unique, and it performs well. And I also like the story behind the company, as well as the fact that it's a bit of a challenge to obtain one. I can easily see why Kasama has gained a cult following, and I will be purchasing one of these, hopefully within the next batch that comes out. I am enjoying it that much. It's something I recommend you check out, and if you can, get your hands on one. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, a writing sample, and then details on how you can register to win one of these wicker pen cases. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Kasama Una, and here it is with the Tala. You can see that the Tala is a little bit shorter. The end is a little bit more tapered as well. And then one other difference is you can tell here at the end of the cap on the Tala tapers down slightly, and the end of the cap on the Una is straight. In regard to some size comparisons with some other pens, here it is with a Platinum 3776. That's the Yakinama. Then here it is with a TWSBI Go. And here it is with a Lamy All-Star. And in regard to three pens that you just might be seeing reviewed here on this channel in the very near future, first up we have the Conklin Durograph Rainbow. Then next up we have the Auto Hut Design 4 Blue Wave, and this has some really cool blue waves in the barrel material there. And then finally, a brand new pen from Visconti, which would be the Homo Sapiens Tuscan Hills, which is a really nice green resin here. And that's what it looks like in comparison to the Kasamas. So here we go with the writing sample for the Kasama. And this is the Una. This is a broad stainless steel nib. And the ink that I'm using here today is Private Reserve. Copper Burst. This is what the ink looks like. It's a nice reddish brown that has a decent amount of shading and a little bit of sheen to it. This is what it looks like in comparison to Diamine Ancient Copper. And then also the new Leonardo Nutmeg that might be coming out soon. It's not quite out in the market yet, but you might be seeing that soon. This is what the bottle looks like. It has a really large mouth, so you can fit just about any pen in there. If you're not familiar, Yachtfa Brands has recently acquired Private Reserve, and so you might be seeing these in more retailers than you have in the past. Okay, here we go with the rest of the writing sample. Skipped a little bit at the end, but I think that was more the angle I was holding that out. This broad nib is very smooth with just a hint of feedback. You're not going to get a lot of line variation out of there, but I do find the ink flow on here to be decent. In regard to reverse writing, it lays down a decent line of ink, and it wasn't too sharp. And in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up just fine. So there you have the Kasama Una and Tala. I think these are really nice pens, and like I had said before, I will be purchasing one of these as soon as I can get my hand on it, and I think that that's a testament to it that me testing it out really makes me want to add this to my collection. Okay, in regard to the giveaway, I will be giving away, barely fits in the screen, one of these wicker pen cases. All you need to do is you need to be a subscriber to this channel and then just leave a comment on this video in YouTube. In regard to a comment topic, maybe why don't you let me know, since the Kasama is a rather hard pen to acquire, what a pen that you'd like to pick up that is rather hard to acquire that you'd like to add to your collection one day. The comment topic is not required, but it is just a suggestion. 72 hours after the posting of this video, then I will go ahead and randomly select a winner and contact them via YouTube and then let them know what they need to do in order to claim their prize. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.